All right, everyone, I'll go ahead and get us started. Just so everyone knows, this is being recorded. So if any of your peers or parents aren't here and you'd like to share the information with them after the fact, we'll be sending it out in this weekend's newsletter. So look for that on Friday. Tonight, we're going to be
I think, Ashley, we're also going to be putting them in the student life too.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can access it in both places. So today we're going to be talking a lot about the NCAA Eligibility Center and making sure that you are eligible if you want to play Division I or Division II in college. We also have Oscar here from USP. I'll let him introduce himself in a little bit so that he can help us with questions and answers at the end, because I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions about college recruitment and other topics too. But we're going to start out with the NCAA Eligibility Center. Because this time of year is a great time of year to make sure that you all have your accounts and you're set up and you're good to go with that. This is really a great thing for everyone in 10th through 12th grade to make sure that they've already done. If you're a sophomore or up, you should have an account. And if you don't, I recommend making one today and getting started with that process. If you're a freshman, you can go ahead and make yourself an account as well. You'll just be a little bit ahead of the game. If you're still in middle school, you don't need an Eligibility Center account yet, but it's still good to know what you'll have to do as you get into high school. And tonight we'll show a little clarity of why we focus so much on making sure that you're in the correct grade and that you're not taking too many high school courses in middle school either. So I will get started with that. We at ICL, Megan and I are your best contacts when it comes to college questions. If they're NCAA specific, I'm happy to help you field them. And at the end of the presentation, I also have the NCAA Eligibility Center's contact information. You can reach out to them directly and ask them questions. They will ask you for your ID number when you call them though. So that's why you want to make sure you have that account set up. And then we also are partnering with University Sports Programs, USP. Oscar's joining us tonight. So they'll be able to answer any of your questions and we can direct you to them in the future if you'd like the assistance from their program as well. First and foremost, what is the NCAA Eligibility Center? Well, it's a unit within the NCAA that's responsible for evaluating and certifying college-bound student athletes. So if you want to participate in Division I or Division II schools, you have to be certified by them. Division III and beyond, you don't have to be, but Division I and II, you do. You want to make sure that you meet their academic and amateurism requirements, which we'll talk more about both of those as we keep going. The first thing that you want to make sure that you do is create yourself an account. So there are two different types of accounts. The first one is a profile page account, and the second one is a certification account. You can go to this link, eligibilitycenter.org, or use this QR code to go right there and create your account today. The profile page account is great if you don't know what division you want to play in, or if you know you'll be playing in Division III. There's no registration fee. It's a free account and you can upgrade it to the certification account at any point. If you know you want to play Division I or II, you're going to need that certification account. It's a $90 registration fee for domestic, and then it's a $150 registration fee for foreign athletes. We recommend that you be proactive. So like I said, if you're in 10th through 12th grade and you don't have that account yet, go ahead and set it up as early as tonight, but make sure you prioritize it this week if you don't get to it today. And then share your NCAA ID with ICL. That way we can go and add you to our school. We can add your transcripts. And if we ever have to contact the Eligibility Center on your behalf, they're going to ask us for that information. So if you already have an account or you create one today, you can chat your ID directly to me and I'll make sure to add it to our records. If not, email it to me when you do create your account and I'll update our records so that we have it. If we don't get your ID from you this week, we're going to be following up to make sure that everyone in 10th through 12th grade has that account set up. You also want to make sure that you're sharing your NCAA ID, ID, with schools that are recruiting you. So any college that you're interested in that's also interested in you, you should be sharing that information with them. You do still have to apply for your schools. Them recruiting you doesn't mean you get in academically. So make sure you go through the application process. Obviously, that's for our seniors. But as you're a junior and looking into school, make sure you know you still have to be able to get in to the school itself. So you have to go through their application process. And then in April, before you start your freshman year of college, you'll want to get that amateurism certification. So we'll talk to you more about that as it comes up in the spring, but just know that's the final step. And then the last step with ICL is that you'll request your transcript from us at the end of your senior year to prove that you graduated, because that's part of the qualifications as well. So for today, all you have to do is create that account, which I'll share again at the end, and I'll also put the link in the chat when we're done here. So you can be doing it while we go through questions and answers. One of the biggest questions that we get is what the academic requirements are. For Division I athletes, you have to have 16 core courses. This is what a core course is: English, math, physical science, natural science, social studies, and additional courses. Additional courses are usually language courses. Sometimes an elective course will qualify, but most of the time they don't. All of our high school core courses are NCAA certified. If you got some of your credits from a different school, you'll need to check the NCAA website to make sure the courses are NCAA certified, or you can reach out to us and we can help you with that process. But as you can see, you need this minimum breakdown if you want to play Division I. So you'll need 4 English classes, 3 math classes, 2 science, 2 social studies, and then 5 more to make up that 16. If you want to play Division II, there are a few less courses, but whenever you hear core courses, it's still talking about these subjects. Your Division I qualifiers are these 4 things. They have a rule that's called the 10 and 7 rule. That means that you have to complete 10 of your core courses before you begin your 7th semester or your 4th year of high school. So you'll see over here, there is a requirement for Division I athletes to complete everything by their graduation date, by the end of your 8th semester or 4th year. I did clarify with the NCAA Eligibility Center that 8 semesters does allow you to still take over the summer between semesters.
College.
It just means that you can't take one after your final semester. So once you've graduated, you can't take any courses. So the 10 and 7, you have to finish a certain number, 10 of your courses before you start your senior year, essentially. 16 core courses we already talked about, but that's a non-negotiable requirement. And then you have to have a certain GPA too. You have to have at least a 2.3 in the required subject areas. So your GPA is made up of just your core courses for this requirement. So if you do really well in PE or electives, that's not going to count towards this. Those 16 core courses, your GPA has to be a 2.3 or above. You'll see at the note on the bottom of the screen, if you don't meet the requirement of 10 and 7, you'll have to redshirt your first year if you want to play Division I. So that's one we have to be really, really careful about. Division II does not have that same requirement. So that's only if you're a Division I athlete. And we'll talk more about the COVID additions that have been made this year, but that's only for students that are going into college in the fall. So if you're going into college later than 2022, they haven't released any COVID additional rules yet. This is the timeline that you should be following if you want to be an NCAA Division I athlete. So like I said, there's 8 semesters. You can do things between semesters. So if you need to catch up over the summer or finish anything to meet that 10 and 7 rule, then we can use the summers to do that. But once you've started your 7th semester, those 10 have to be done, and everything has to be done by the end of your 8th semester. Like I said, there are slight differences. So if you're a Division II athlete instead, you can read about it on this page. These QR codes will take you there. I'm also going to share the files in the chat at the end of our section. Then the files list out all the requirements you need for both Division I and Division II. The COVID accommodations are only for students that are starting school this fall. So the first one is the time extensions, and that does not negate the 10 and 7. It negates the finishing everything by the end of your senior year. So basically what it allows is for you to take courses over the summer after you graduate. So if our seniors are missing any of their requirements, we do have a little bit of flexibility to help you get those done this summer. The other accommodation that they made because of COVID was that testing is optional. Your school might still require it for admissions, but if you're entering college this fall, your SAT and ACT scores won't be considered for your NCAA eligibility. Otherwise, they will be. They won't necessarily be considered as in you have to score a certain number, but they will go into the eligibility center and be a factor that is analyzed. As I said, these are the best resources that you can look into. I'm going to share them in the chat, but this guide for a college-bound athlete, you can see the picture right here. It's like a 15-page handbook, and it has everything you could possibly need to know about the NCAA Eligibility Center. If you want to make sure that you're doing everything on track, that is your best resource. And then there's also the academic requirements for Division 1 and Division 2, and then the COVID-19 fact sheet. And I'm going to put all of those in the chat. I am going to answer some of your questions today. And like I said, if you ever have any more, you can email me. I can reach out to the Eligibility Center on your behalf, but I also wanted to make sure that you guys know you can reach out to the Eligibility Center too. Just make sure you have that ID number. So if you haven't already, make that account today. And then when you call them, you'll use their parent and student hotline. There's a different hotline that Megan or I would call if we were calling on your behalf. So this is the one for parents and students. And they're only open from 9 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have any specific academic questions, like you took a course at a different school and you're not sure if it's going to be approved, this is a hotline you can use to make sure that it is. But once you're in the Eligibility Center, you'll upload your transcripts into it and it'll verify that your courses are approved as well. Does anyone have any questions about those specific things that we went over, or what the general academic requirements are before we move on?
And I do just want to say before you start asking questions, you may want to wait till the end after Oscar speaks, because he will be giving even more information above and beyond what Ashley just did. But thank you so much, Ashley, for all of that information. I know you almost need a degree in NCAA to understand what what is required and helping our students get what they need. So thank you.
Hey guys, and can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Kirk.
And I would caveat to say that just so you know, it's an ever evolving system. The NCAA is a kind of bizarre organization that changes a lot. So you really want to be able to keep your abreast, but it sort of changes at a whim. So we are on top of it, and we'll keep you abreast of everything.
I just chatted the Eligibility Center website, so you can use that link to go and create your accounts tonight. Even if you're not with your parents or guardians, you can still get the process started by creating that free account. Because like I said, you can upgrade it at any point. So go ahead and create the first step account today. And then if you need your parents' help to go to the next one, you can do that. But again, so that everyone can see, here's the QR code if that makes it easier. Eligibilitycenter.org is where you'll want to go. And at the very least, go ahead and make yourself this profile page account. If you are able to, I would recommend going ahead and making the certification account if you know you want to play Division 1 or 2, but start with at least the profile page account.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to drop those files into the chat so you guys can pull them out of the chat tonight. I'll do that while Oscar is talking, but I'm going to pass it over now to Oscar from USP to introduce himself and a little bit about their program.
Perfect. So thank you, Ashley and Megan, and the ICL school for inviting us. We're so excited to be a part of having a partnership with you guys. It took us a long time to find a college or high school, or online high school that really fit what we were looking for, which first of all was to be certified by the NCAA, because we have dealt with so many schools that they said it in a way, but every time that we went through the process of NCAA, we found out that some of the courses were not certified. So it was always an issue. So very happy that for you guys to have the experience that had gone through this process before. I definitely are certified. So everything that you mentioned, I think is perfect. One of the things that I would say is that the only requirement for Division 2 that differs from Division 1 is that Division 2 does not have the core courses requirement, and differs with the GPA. The GPA for Division 1 has to be a 2.3. Division 2, you have to have at least a 2.0. So usually that's the leeway that they have for a student to be eligible to play Division 2 versus when they are not eligible to play Division 1. Their response from the NCAA, they can give you three types of basically responses of after you go through a process. One is that you are qualified. That means that you can play college tennis or any sports. You can practice the sport and you can get scholarships. The second one, which is the redshirt that actually you mentioned, this is called academic redshirt, means that you can still get scholarships. You may practice with the team, but you cannot compete for a whole year. And then the final one, which is the one that hopefully nobody wants, is a non-qualifier. That means that you have to basically sit down for a whole year. You cannot practice, and you have to pay out of pocket the whole year. You cannot get any type of scholarship. That is mainly for Division One. Most of the times, the student that is not a qualifier for Division One tends to be a qualifier for Division Two. But other than that, I think you guys cover everything. I was thinking that I was gonna have more things to do, but you went over the whole thing. I think there's a couple of
Well,
questions.
and Oscar too, I mean, I think one of the things that you can bring to the table that Ashley and I don't have the experience as much in is, really talking to these athletes and explaining, more of the recruitment side of things and, what they should be looking for, how they could communicate with coaches and what they could be doing from, as early as middle school, but probably, ninth grade on.
Okay, so that's so what we do at, I guess I'm sure I started with it. What we do at USP is we work one-on-one with the students. We are a one-on-one consulting company where we basically guarantee the family that we're gonna be able to find the best opportunities for them. If the student is not an Ivy League student, obviously we cannot get them there. But if they do have that potential, we're able to do that. How do we do it? We have a 27-year track of communication with coaches. We have follow a curriculum of work, and I guess it's just that we have that trust with the coaches, having done this for so many times, and in addition, having over 2,000 students that have gone to play mainly college tennis, but we do work with other sports. So what are the students supposed to do? There's so many things that they have to do. We the other day we went through a timeline of what you're supposed to do from the time you're a freshman all the way to you're a senior. But I think planning it's the main thing for freshman and sophomore. Second semester of sophomore, you may want to start being more actively recruiting, creating your first college list, what we call dream list at first as a sophomore, talking finances with your family, understanding how much they can support you, because there are full scholarships, but in many cases they're not fully funded. The programs are not fully funded, so you have to pay a little bit out of pocket. Having that, and then by the end of sophomore year, beginning of summer, before you turn become a junior, you should already be actively talking to coaches. That does not mean that if you're a junior already and you haven't talked to a coach, you're that far behind. But there's definitely some students that are doing that. At least the ones that work with us, we want to make sure that they're doing it that way. Junior year is just the year that you have to be putting results or going to events to showcase yourself to the coaches. This is the mainly active year of recruiting is junior year. Second semester or junior year, it's when the student starts getting into the radar of the coach, and the coach starts creating their what we call student list, which is basically like the student has a college list, the coach has a student list that they're recruiting. But the end of the junior year, the coaches may start doing something what is pre-applications. They're reviewing your information academically to see if you're going to be admissible by their school. By that time, you already have a clear idea of where you may go. Most of our students, by the time they finish the junior year, they're already close to the decision. Senior year, if you haven't made a decision yet, this is the time to do some visits, official visits, meaning that it's organized by the coach, and you sit down and just make a decision. Hopefully your second semester of senior year, you just taking a break of everything and just finish up strongly your classes. But that should be the timeline correctly of somebody. Now, everybody's different. And the fact that you're starting a bit late would not deter from the end goal, but hopefully everybody with the support that you guys are giving them and all this information, they're starting the process, which again could be as early as a freshman, preparation and planning. Actively recruiting, it should be around the sophomore year.
Awesome. Thanks, Oscar. I'm just going to remind everyone again that if you've already set up an account or you set one up tonight, chat me your NCAA ID number so that Megan and I can help you through the process. We're here to support you at every stage of it. Mm-hmm. At this time, if you have questions, either for me or Megan or Oscar, you can chat them or come off mute and ask us your questions.
Come on, I know there's questions out there. Don't be shy. And if we don't get a ton coming in, Oscar, maybe do you have any, frequently asked questions, or, when you're first working with families, maybe, how you guys really start the process? What are some of the main questions you're asking, and how does that work?
I'm putting out everything right now.
Yeah, Oscar, I got a question directly chatted to me that I'm just going to share it with you so you can clarify. We have a lot of students this year repeating the 8th grade so that they don't start their 9th grade year yet and don't get started on any of that. Yeah, so reclassing is fine. But then we have a specific question that one of our students started high school for like a week or two, but then reclassed with us. That shouldn't affect their NCAA eligibility, right?
So I'm assuming that the 9th grade or the 8th grade, it will be admitted by you guys, the transcript.
Yes, it would be. And like situations like this, they started 9th grade and then they were like, no, we want to reclass, and went back to 8th grade, but they never completed anything in 9th grade.
Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue.
So their transcript will never be anywhere because they didn't actually finish a class.
So in my experience with the NCAA is that they tend to be very black and white. At least what they provide online or the information that they give you, they're not going to give you any question or any answer that goes outside of what they're publishing online. But the reality is that most of the issues tend to be very gray, in the sense that they are open to hearing back what the explanation for gap years and things like that. And they do not go just, again, like a black and white. If you took a gap year, you're not eligible. They tend not to do it that way. There's a chance that may happen, but at the same time, they tend to hear the explanations, because we had a student a couple of years ago that sort of like what you mentioned, but she actually did a whole semester in 9th grade, and she realized, hey, my English is not good enough. I'm doing very bad, so I might as well just take a whole year, a gap year, my 9th grade, and then do it again, just studying English. And they thought that I was going to help her academically, but then they realized when they came to us that, hey, you're going to have an issue with the NCAA. So we had to prove that her English was not good enough. She was not going to pass the classes, and she was still able to play Division I without an issue.
Yeah. So if any situations like that arise, just let us know, and we will support you in talking to the NCAA and getting your situation approved. Another question that came to me privately in the chat, Oscar, is about fee waivers. Can you talk about the process to get a fee waiver for the NCAA membership, and if that's available for international students?
To my understanding, it's not available for internationals, and it is offered by I may be wrong, but it's offered by the high school. That's my understanding. For that, some high schools, they tend to have, for low income families, they tend to have that. That's my understanding.
Hello, Oscar. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Okay, so my name is Emiliano. I am from Mexico, and I have a doubt. So if I want the USP service, what should I do? With who should I get in contact? Also, a bunch of friends and tennis partners from Mexico has worked with Joyce Martinez.
Yeah.
So should I get in contact with her or with who?
So you can get in contact with either one of us or Joyce in Mexico. So as a company, we have different advisors that work under us. And Joyce happens to be one of the ones in Mexico. And she has worked with several players from Mexico in the past year. But feel free to reach out to Joyce. If you have our contact, if not, we can provide it to you.
Throughout Instagram, right?
Or we can provide you her personal phone number. I guess that would be easier.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Don't worry.
All right. And another question came in the chat. I assume we have to create an account for each child? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Correct. One thing I forgot to mention is that a lot of students, when they're filling out the form, this is a tip, when they get to the questions regarding the academic input, they tend to believe that online schooling, like the case of you guys, is considered homeschool. Please do not put homeschool. Like ICL is not, it's not considered a homeschool. It is an online school. If you put a homeschool, it will be a huge mess. First of all, you cannot go back. You cannot edit that. And if you were to fix it, you have to send several emails explaining that ICL is not a homeschool. And third, if you were to go the route of following, hey, might as well just fill out this form, they will request literally a single statement for every teacher that you had taken classes since you started high school, explaining how the curriculum is. That's because homeschool is looked at differently than how ICL will be. If you guys are online school, that is not the same type of, but it's a big issue. We had this with students, and just to fix it from homeschooling to answering, because there's a question that states, are you currently homeschooled on that? If you put yes, it's a big issue.
That's a really, really, really good point, Oscar, because a lot of families, I think it's just, semantics at that point, feel that, oh, I'm doing my school at home, so it's a homeschool. But that's such a good point. We are a private accredited school. Your child is not homeschooled.
And one more thing that I think that we didn't go over is amateurism. Like, it differs on the sport, but am I assuming that most of the students here are tennis players?
About half of them are tennis players, but we do have a variety of other sports as well.
Okay, so depending on your sport, they're gonna ask some questions specifically. For all the sports, it's actually very easily, because you just request whether or not you have an agent. And this means a sports agent, somebody that's looking for scholarships, not for scholarships, but for sponsorships. So you have to put, I'm assuming you have to put no, because that means that you're not a professional. But yes, and you have somebody doing that for you, you're a professional athlete. And then, but for tennis, most people have the question of amount of money that they have made. You can input that as long as you haven't made over $10,000. And if you haven't made it, you have to put it. But you will be eligible as long as you haven't made $10,000 after expenses. But so if you have a tennis player that is looking to play professional tournaments, keep in mind that you have to keep a track of all the expenses and all the income that you have made from tournaments.
Any other questions? I'm sure you guys have to be curious about the recruitment process, eligibility center, what's required to be a college athlete.
And while you're thinking of those great questions, because I know you have them, Ashley and I get them in emails a lot. So please, while you have us here, ask away. Caitlin did put a survey in the chat. If you could go ahead and fill that out, it just gives us some feedback on our webinar, as we'll be holding at least 2 a month, probably more. We want to continue to improve these. So please give us your feedback.
I think somebody asked me, what UTR should we have for each division? So this is, again, like a very tennis question. It varies, and it also varies depending on the gender. UTR being a metric that measures, in a way, how good a player may be. The reality is that we don't like to fall into numbers like that. I think that's falling into the game of the coach, which is not what we do. We like to sell the student beyond just statistics, because otherwise they're just becoming an Amazon product, which is not what we want. We want to have a conversation with the coach, explain why this X player is a perfect fit for their school beyond just the tennis level. It varies. I wouldn't say at the level exactly of UTR for each division, because there's so many levels also in the divisions. So we have to be very specific about looking at the player itself and looking at what schools are a better fit for that. One of the things that I think this is a good question. Most people, when they're doing the college list, they make a huge mistake, which is that they tend to go for schools that they have heard of, which is very associated with one thing, which is what you see on TV on Saturday, which is football. So most of the people are going to name the same 25 schools. So the way we do it a bit different is we like to get to know who the student is, what the family wants, and create their own filters or their own things that they want. From there, do the search. Like, for example, if you're looking for a school that's close to the water because you like surfing, so that's a filter for you. If you're looking for a school that's ranked top 300 in the country, that is a filter for you. And allowing the search to show you the schools that are a good fit for you, rather than just looking for names of schools. Because if you do that, you're going to end up with the same 25 schools that everybody else has.
That's awesome feedback. We are getting a couple questions now. One parent asked, when I disenrolled kids from previous school, we stated they're going to be homeschool. Will this matter, or should I correct it on to online school?
I'm assuming that this is at the NCAA website, at the NCAA Eligibility Center.
I think, Ash, were you talking about at the other school? If you're talking, we can't hear you. You might be muted. Because if it was through your other school, it shouldn't matter. Since you are enrolled in a fully accredited school and your transcripts will show that, just be sure on the NCAA website, like Oscar said, make sure that is noted that you are not homeschooled.
And then we had a student ask, is international student for nationality, or does it depend on where your school is located?
So international student is considered somebody that was not born in the US. Simple as that. Now, there will be some different requirements, but this is for the school. Like if you have done more than 3 years of high school in the US, in the case with ICL, it's very likely you would not be required a TOEFL or a Duolingo. Some schools may still require it, but most of them will not. But you will still be considered international as long as you're not a USA citizen.
Perfect. And then I got one privately to me, but I think it'd be a great one for you to field, Oscar. It says, I'm wondering, do you know anything about the new NIL stuff? As an athlete, can I technically make money off my NIL before college? Can I become an ambassador for certain products? Correct. Or does that hinder my ability?
So only USA students, like USA citizen students, are the ones that are under that ruling. So you will be allowed to do it. Internationals, unfortunately, not as of now.
And then if they make money off of that, or as an ambassador for a certain product, does that hinder them at all in the eligibility process, or is that okay?
So the NCAA Eligibility Center in itself has not mentioned anything related to it, because they're actually not talking about money or what are you making before going to college. They have only tackled what you're making after you've gone to college. So far they haven't released anything related to if you have a sponsor, certain brand before going to college. They haven't released anything related to that. I think it was a great thing what they did, but they have only talked about once you are an athlete making money. It's the only thing that I have talked about so far. So again, if I would be very careful right now before becoming a student athlete at the university about sponsoring any type of product. At the same time, you have to go, every school now has NIL department. So you have to go through them to be approved for you to represent a brand.
Awesome. And then another student asked, can you accept a scholarship to play for a school and then defer it for the purpose of playing on the professional tour?
Yes. So that certainly has happened before. One of the players that he currently, I think on the US Open, he went to the 4th round. He played at Brandon Nakashima, I think that's his name. He played at Virginia for a year, and then afterwards, he actually went pro. So you don't have a commitment per se. It's just even you can leave after one semester. Nobody's gonna force you to stay there if you have an offer to be a professional athlete.
But however, I don't think you can come back and play with eligibility once you become a pro.
Correct. So if you get an agent, or if you make enough money to lose eligibility, yes, of course you cannot come back. But you can actually there are students that have taken gap years. They do lose eligibility for that year, but as long as they don't do that, they don't make enough money after expenses, they can go back.
And there's another question. I don't know which division the kids want to play yet. Should I wait till they know, or can I apply for a division and then change it later?
So NCAA wise, this is what the profile is for now. You should just create the profile NCAA, which is the one that they don't charge you for. And it's for somebody that has that doubt. If the student does become a Division II or Division I athlete, then you will change it to a pay profile.
And just to add to that too, is you still want to be sure you're taking the courses to be eligible for Division I if you think it's in the realm of possibilities, just so that way you're not closing that door. But as far as the NCAA website, no, you don't have to pay the fee and do the eligibility yet. Another question for you, Oscar, are the scholarships for the 8 semesters or annually, and you have to renew them, ?
Correct. So that's a very good question. So it differs on the school, but Power 5 universities, which is the largest 5 conferences, they do offer 8 scholarships, 8 semester scholarships, meaning that you get guaranteed scholarship for the 4 years. Even 5 if you do get injured or you redshirt. Most schools, they are only doing scholarships per year. Actually, it's August to August. So if you start in January, it's only for 6 months, and they are renewed. In most cases, they're renewed to benefit the student, meaning that they are increased in scholarship after year 1, year 2, year 3, or year 4. But it's not that common that the coach will lower the scholarship unless something happens extreme beyond just the sport. But it's a 1-year commitment outside of the Power 5s. I guess the follow-up question, can you lose it? Technically you can, but it's not that common. To be honest, in our experience, our students, we have a transfer rate, meaning that out of all our students, less than 2% are transferring after the first year. So it's not that common for us because we tend to help the student and make sure that they choose the right school beyond just choosing a school based on scholarship or anything else that's not as important. So our students tend not to transfer as much as other sports or other athletes.
Looks like we have time for a few more questions if you have any.
Somebody asked me directly, if I have 2 nationalities, I guess the student has Mexican and American. Should I register as an American? It's up to the student, but I guess they will have more positive if they do register as an American. Yeah, so I would recommend doing American. Well, the main thing for NCAA wise, you save $60 if you register as an American. If you were to register as a Mexican student, you will have to pay $150 versus $90.
Just a reminder, if you're filling out the eligibility, be sure to send myself and Ashley your ID number. And then also the link is in the chat again for a survey about this webinar. Please fill it out and give us some feedback. Sean, we will be sending the recording after this in the Friday newsletter, and it'll also be in the student life. But you should be able to, I know it was in the chat, but Ashley, do you mind just putting the eligibility link in there one more time? There you go. But there's a lot of information that you may have missed from the first half, so just be sure to go back and watch it.
I'm also going to go ahead and put the resources back in the chat, those 4 PDFs we talked about earlier, so they pop up again. So I'll put those and both links in one more time so they're fresh for everyone.
Thanks. And I would like to reiterate just a big thank you to everyone for the questions. They're going to be coming fast and furious. This is definitely something that everyone needs to take very seriously for a lot of the athletes. And, I love the idea that, don't just go on schools that either reach out to you, really do your research. There's so many great institutions that you don't see on Saturdays, and to find the right fit, and we're here to help you do that.
Thanks, Kirk. And another parent asked, what is the deadline for registration if one doesn't register now? Oscar, I'll let you answer. No.
So the deadline for NCAA is, so the actual deadline is August 1st before your entrance year, but that's unrealistic. You're not gonna be able to fill out all the information in less than a month, or send up the documentation. The thing is that at NCAA, once around April of the graduation year, they get very busy and it takes much longer for them to process information. So they're doing I don't even know how many student athletes. So the earlier you do it, the earlier you send information, the earlier you're gonna be certified.
That's great. And Oscar, would you mind putting your email address in the chat in case people want to reach out to you directly?
Yeah, I'll put it right here.
Awesome, thank you. So you should have everything you need in the chat from the PDFs that Ashley's putting in there, the resources that you need, the Eligibility Center website where you apply for NCAA eligibility, and then also Oscar's email, and I think that's, oh, and the survey for today's webinar. So we can probably take one or two more questions if you guys have any. And we'd be happy to answer. It doesn't have to be an NCAA question. It doesn't have to be a sports related question. If you have a question just about college admissions in general, be happy to field those as well.
I just got a direct question, and someone asked if we will send out the PDFs that I just sent out. So I will attach them to this week's newsletter to make sure that you guys all have them. So look for them on Friday. And if you ever have any questions about NCAA, like I said, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to share the resources with you personally, or set up a meeting with you to discuss it further. And you can reach out to the Eligibility Center directly as well if you have specific questions.
Great. And we did get another question. What's the best way to research colleges for your child's sport, like how to get started? Oscar, I'd love to hear your answer, but I do want to let everybody know that they can schedule times to meet with myself and Caitlin, who has been chatting in the chat. I don't know if she's able to introduce herself as well, but we've been starting to meet with students this week, and we can help you research these schools as well. But Oscar, I'd love to hear what you have to say too.
I mean, it would be better to know the sport to be more specific, but just a general answer is for tennis. Okay, so that makes it easier. So for tennis, to know about the level, there is a website called macyrating.com, where you can actually see the ranking of every single program in the country, beyond Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, junior colleges, even NCAA.
Oscar, can you put that in the chat, please?
Yeah. 1 second, I'll put it out right now. Perfect. So I'm just linking the one from, but this is just rankings of the sport. So it's just ranking. Universaltennisrating.com does give you the level of every team compared to your son or daughter. So that also helps you, and I'll send you that as well. Now, if you do want to learn more about the university itself, I really like US News. I like Forbes ranking. I like College Niche, which is one that just takes feedbacks from students. I tend to use all College Factual, even though it's not that factually based. And I think if the student wants to be engineer, I do basengineering.com. So there's so many resources online. College Board, I like the search engine that they have. We do have our own search engine that takes all of this information and puts it into one place. So our online platform does have that.
Okay.
Yeah, and somebody also asked about for golf. Do you have a specific?
So for golf, again, in reality, we use our own search engine that it's within our website. It's called My University. It's something that we have developed as a company. So what we do is we have the stroke average of every single team in the country, and that way, when you're looking for schools, you are able to filter it for academic, social information, and also by the level of the golf team, depending on the student's golf stroke average and handicap.
Wow.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Oscar. And if I could, Caitlin, if you're still here, do you want to just come off and introduce yourself real quick?
Hey, yes, definitely. Hey guys, my name is Caitlin. I'm just started here this week. I am a school counselor, a licensed school counselor, but I am here as a communications manager, but I'm definitely here to help with any college counseling along the way as well. And I'm excited to meet with all y'all and hear what your future is going to look like. It's very exciting stuff.
Thank you so much. And there was another question, so we'll probably take this one and one more if we get it, so we can end on time. Is there a UTR requirement for different divisions?
So again, it's difficult to say like that because Division I has a gap of about 300 something universities, but you have to look at the UTR average of every school. But if you were to look at the highest level for women's is 9.5 and plus. For men is 11.75 and plus for that the best teams, and these are in some cases full scholarship for girls, for boys are high scholarship players. But again, there is such a gap so even if you're a 10, 9, 8, there's still opportunities of universities for you. So I wouldn't focus as much as UTR. I would rather look at the student itself and look how good they are at their sport. We tend to look at a lot of videos, watching them play, compete, so we can do a correct assessment of what the actual level may be of the player. So just beyond UTR. UTR is a good tool, but it's just a number. Yeah. And the less parents and kids are thinking of UTR, the more healthy it's gonna be for their own safe. Because it tends to mess with the head.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here, asking great questions, and a huge thank you to Oscar and to Ashley for running tonight's session. We hope to hold more of these seminars, and in the meantime, if you have any questions for us or for Oscar, you have our contact information. Thank you, Lucia, and yeah, I guess we'll hang out for a couple more minutes in case there's any questions, but otherwise this is recorded and we'll be sharing this with everybody. And don't forget the survey. All right. Well, thank you again, Oscar. Yeah, I guess we can just connect over email and see if we can set up, something maybe for October or November.
Yep.
Moving forward.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And anyone that has any questions, feel free to email me. I'm not the best person on email. I think it would be better if I leave my personal number here.
Yeah.
I don't mind. Actually.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to, yeah, absolutely. And I can always share your contact information again in our Friday newsletter. Because I know we have a lot more athletes that just weren't able to be here live. So maybe after watching the webinar, they may have more questions, but thank you so much. It's very kind of you to share that. So if you all are still on, Oscar kindly shared his personal number. All right. Well,
Thank you for that, Oscar. Thank you
worries,
so
no
much.
worries. Thank you for having me, guys.
absolutely. Well, we'll
Really
definitely,
helpful.
yeah, we'll definitely be in touch, and we look forward to just continuing this partnership. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Take care.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys. Bye.
Awesome.